Became the middleman for my ex-best friend's restraining order enforcement, only to end up testifying against her in court. The main people are me Lucy my ex-friend, and Jake her ex-boyfriend/abuser. Lucy and Jake dated from age 16-18-ish. Lucy knew Jake did drugs when they met, but at that point it was occasional. He had started due to living in an abusive house. They moved out together with the help of Lucy's parents, but Jake got worse not better, and eventually did something he heavily regretted. He beat her, badly. To my knowledge I was told it resulted in broken bones. Jake did not fight the charges or even try to claim innocent. He was sober when he went to court and was horrified when he heard what he did. I'm not defending him for this. But Lucy and her lawyer managed to argue she didn't want him going to prison. She said she wanted him sent to rehab and therapy, that prison helps no one and he needed help. I'm not 100% certain how it went, I just know what I was told. From what I know, since the case couldn't progress if Lucy denied the abuse, the judge agreed that if he was found guilty he'd have to get regular therapy, and go to rehab. If he attempted to skip either he'd be sent to prison immediately to do the rest of the sentence, and there would be a restraining order between the two. We are all in our 20s now, and Jake was released from the rehab building, but there was a condition that he needed a support system. For obvious reasons he could not go live with his parents. But he had an uncle who he could live with who took him in. The uncle lives a 15-minute walk from the nearest Walmart. This is important to note because me and Lucy live in a town half an hour drive from this Walmart, but it's also the closest grocery store. Lucy and Jake had a police officer, might have been parole officer, in charge of making sure they stayed away from each other. Neither ever knew where the other was, just where they weren't. But then there were problems because Lucy wanted to attend an event and couldn't because the officer's suggestion about that was just don't go, can't risk seeing him if you aren't there. Lucy said her talking to Jake violates the agreement but not me talking to Jake for her. I wanted nothing to do with him. I met her after the restraining order and everything was solved, and I didn't like him even without knowing him, but she begged because she wanted to be able to enjoy local events, and was sure he did too. I asked why not just drop the order, but she didn't want to do that. I eventually agreed and stopped at Jake's uncle's house and got Jake's phone number. I found out where Jake lived through a cousin of mine who was still friends with Jake after the incident. For about 2 years after getting his number, he'd make plans for them, a 3-day local event. Lucy goes Monday, Jake goes Wednesday, a 1-day event. That's all day? Lucy goes in the morning, Jake can go in the evening. You get the idea? Well, this was all fine and dandy, till Jake wanted a job. He asked the police officer if he was allowed to get one and where. Officer yes, and told him anywhere in Jake's town, again 30 minutes from our town. Jake at this point still has no idea where Lucy lives. Lucy has no idea where Jake lives. I know everything. Jake applies to a few jobs, and avoids certain spots he knows Lucy had liked in case she ever comes to town. He eventually gets a job at the closest Walmart to his uncle's house, a 15-minute walk. There is 2 Walmarts but the other is a 40-minute walk from his house. Jake texts me and lets me know. I tell Lucy she can't shop at that Walmart and will have to go to the second one, a 45-minute drive from our town instead of 30 minutes. She freaks out about this. She tells me to tell Jake he can't work there. I tell her he clearly can. I told her to just drive 15 more minutes or heck, go to the giant Tiger across the street from it. She's still flipping out and contacts the police officer who also says it's well out of the restraining order area for her town. That the order doesn't apply to places she frequents. I suggested to her that I get Jake's schedule and she go there days Hess not there. She agreed to this. I thought, well, turns out she went there a day he wasn't and spoke to his manager, told her about the order and tried to get him fired. The manager, from what I know, gave Lucy a piece of her mind, saying that Jake was starting over, that if she didn't give him a job no one would, that she knew about the order and that Lucy had no right to come get him fired. At this point Jake was told by his manager what was happening. Jake asked me for more information. I told him I wasn't sure what was going on but I think Lucy was having a breakdown. I asked him to give me time to talk to her. I asked her why she did that and she went on a rant about how he shouldn't be able to work at her Walmart. That she'd get him fired no matter what. She'd make sure he can't work anywhere she goes. At this point I told her to stop. She did. She'd take it to court and I blew up. I told her if she did that I wouldn't be on her side, I'd be on his, because she's the one that didn't want to send him to jail. She's the one who set up this damn contact between us so that they could live more normal lives, and now she was acting nutty and wanting to destroy the life she allowed him to have. It only devolved from there with her calling me abusive. I started recording on my phone, because I have been abused, and I know the signs of start recording. We argued, screamed, but no hitting. I kicked her out because we were at my house. I told Jake to talk to the police officer, who suggested it was time for Jake to get a lawyer. So that's what Jake did. He told the lawyer everything he knew. The lawyer talked to the manager, his co-workers, all knew Jake had the restraining order against him. And then the lawyer came to me. I told him and showed him everything. He was quiet for a while and told me I might end up having to defend in court. When I asked why, he said what I was doing was facilitating contact between two individuals who are not to contact each other, that it's highly illegal to do this, that information is only supposed to go through the officer and no one else. He asked if I had proof Lucy started the contact. I luckily did. She had texted me one of the times she begged. I emailed him screenshots of every single text I ever sent to either of them, and gave him the recording. He said if she did try to take this against me, He'd represent me for free, just like he was Jake. I agreed. Lucy did end up trying to take us to court before Jake's lawyer could file anything. She claimed me and Jake were breaking the order and making her feel unsafe. In court she claimed I just started giving her demands and telling her where not to go from Jake, and that she knew I was just like him because I grew up in a similar situation as him. I was shocked by this. When questioned I was honest. Our lawyer provided the texts and information needed. It's mostly a blur to me because I couldn't believe someone I considered a friend would do this to me, but I did as promised. I argued against her in court. I told the court that there was 2 Walmarts. She could get to the second one in less time than Jake. She could also go to 3 other stores instead of Walmart. I was asked if I knew what I was doing was breaking the order. I said that Lucy told me it was fine for me to do this. I sadly had no text of that as it was in person, but the texts did show she was the first person to do contact. The texts on her phone had been edited and deleted, but that only works on way, and didn't affect my phone luckily. I don't know when she deleted the texts. I don't know how long she was planning this. In the end the judge decided that the restraining order should be removed, and that Lucy needed to go to therapy. Jake had been following his therapy and was not deemed a threat to Lucy anymore. I don't know if Lucy had a mental break, or if she regretted not sending him to jail. I just don't know. All I know is I don't regret helping Jake get the order thrown away because Hess trying to better himself. He thanks Lucy for that, because if she hadn't fought for that originally he'd have been in jail and worse off. I don't know if she ever got therapy after the abuse. She never really talked about it with me, and I didn't expect her to. But I kept my promise. I argued against her in court and I don't regret it, because she needs help. The Lucy I thought I knew wanted Jake to get help. She didn't want to throw him into the dirt. I'm still not friends with Jake. I'll never be friends with him, or Lucy now. Mine and Lucy's friend group is split. Some think I should have kept out of their business, while others think Lucy needs help because no one had been expecting this. I just needed to tell someone my side of the story. As messy and stupid as it is, I may be missing things as I'm not a lawyer. I didn't understand everything I was told or asked. I just didn't know what else to do than go with emotions. Edit to add, to the people commenting, I don't know the original case. I know what Lucy and Jake said. I never doubt that Jake harmed Lucy. Jake never doubted either. He said he didn't remember it, but he also says he doesn't remember a lot of stuff from that time. And it wouldn't surprise him if he did hurt her. I also don't think Lucy should be hindered by the past, but Jake is required to have a support system. That's his uncle. He was also expected to try to get his life together. This included getting a job. If he wasn't at least applying, they'd have begun to think he was backtracking. So he had to try. He also didn't want to be a burden on his uncle. So he applied to so many places. He deliberately avoided many places he knew Lucy went when they dated. But he wasn't getting much. He applied to Walmart, the only one he could safely walk to. He got the job because his manager, a woman, believes that you have to give people a chance. Jake already wasn't working Saturdays, the days he knew Lucy used to shop. That wasn't good enough. She didn't want him there at all. But when it comes to the order, he wasn't allowed in our town, or to purposely be near her. He had every legal right to go where he wanted in his town whenever he wanted, which sucked for Lucy, hence the above agreement, which turned into this mess. She brought me in because she knew it's hard to do restraining orders in my area. They are almost never given out because it's so hard to enforce them here. We have 2 Walmarts, a giant Tiger, no frills, and a mall. Therese, your stores, that's it. All in one town. You can drive from end to end in less than 20 minutes, but takes 30 minutes to get from our town to that one. I'm fully aware it sucks to have to even think about your abuser. I was abused. I didn't get to go to court, or get an order, because the judge thought I was a liar. So I can't do anything Lucy got to do. I move houses my abuser tries to move to. I get a job in a certain building. He works across the street within a week. I want to go to an event. Hess absolutely gonna be there every single day it's available. So yeah, I know how much it sucks. I'd have loved to have the arrangement she got. A restraining order with an officer who actually helps you. Great. I'd be afraid for my life. But I didn't get that. She did, and I was happy for her. I wouldn't have been willing to let mine avoid jail time. I'd have said throw away the key. But I know mine will never change. She genuinely thought hers would. That's why I truly believe she had a mental breakdown. Because the Lucy I saw in court was not the Lucy I befriended. The Lucy I befriended told me to tell her ex there was a pottery class he should attend that was therapeutic. Told me to tell him which gyms he could attend because she knew he loved working out. A Lucy who said part of her wanted him back, but a part of her knew that psychologically it would never be good for either of them to be together. I don't know what happened to my Lucy, but the current Lucy is not someone I know. She's a completely different person, one I never knew or met. She had a mental break. Which is why I don't regret my choice, because she needed help. Others needed to see she needed help. They needed to know what was happening to her. I ditched do this because I like Jake. I still hate him. A part of me will always look at him and see a broken Lucy. I did this for Lucy, my Lucy, the Lucy who wanted him to get better. So stop calling her a liar. Stop saying I care about Jake more than her. Stop saying I'm victim blaming. Stop victim blaming Lucy. Stop telling me I should have done this differently because Lucy is now in court mandated therapy. She's getting the help she needed, that I saw she needed. Update 1. Jake has been doing shockingly well. He stayed at the Walmart job and has even been promoted to a shift lead. According to his coworkers, yes, I'm still in the loop through mutuals, he's one of their most reliable employees. I'm not saying he's a saint. His past is still something I can't fully forgive, but it seems like he's genuinely trying to rebuild his life. He completed his mandatory therapy program and decided to continue going even after it was no longer required. His therapist recommended he start volunteering as a way to rebuild his sense of self-worth, so he now spends weekends helping at a local shelter. I hear he's become a bit of a mentor to younger guys who are struggling with similar issues he once faced. A mutual friend told me Jake actually sent a handwritten letter to Lucy's lawyer. In it, he expressed gratitude for the chance she gave him all those years ago and apologized for the pain he caused. He didn't send it directly to Lucy, obviously, but it's clear he's still haunted by what happened. Lucy, on the other hand, has been a whirlwind of change, some good, some complicated. The court-mandated therapy turned out to be the best thing for her. She started attending weekly sessions with a trauma specialist, and from what I've heard, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for her. Early on, she was resistant, but something shifted after a few months. She began opening up about her feelings of guilt, anger, and confusion, not just about Jake, but about her own decisions and the life she's been living. She's also been exploring creative outlets. Lucy joined a local art class and even started displaying her paintings at community events. One of her pieces, which she titled Fractured but Healing, was featured in a small gallery. I went to see it, anonymously, of course, and it was breathtaking. It was a mosaic of broken glass and mirrored shards, symbolizing her journey towards self-repair. I think Lucy's finally starting to find herself outside of the shadow of what happened with Jake. However, not all is smooth sailing. Lucy has distanced herself from almost everyone in our old friend group. Some of our mutual friends say she's been shutting people out, while others think she's just trying to protect her peace. I haven't spoken to her directly since the court case, but I occasionally hear updates through mutuals. One told me that Lucy admitted she regretted dragging me into the mess. Another said Lucy mentioned she was embarrassed by how she acted during that time but didn't know how to face me again. As for me, I've been trying to rebuild, too. Losing Lucy as a friend hit me harder than I expected. For a while, I couldn't stop replaying everything that happened, wondering if I could have handled things differently. Therapy helped me come to terms with the fact that I can't control how others react, only how I respond. And honestly, setting boundaries has been liberating. I also decided to take a step back from being the fixer in everyone's lives. For years, I felt responsible for keeping the peace, for making things easier for everyone else, even at the expense of my own mental health. Not anymore. I've started focusing on my own goals and relationships. I even picked up pottery, ironically, something Lucy once suggested to Jake. It's been surprisingly therapeutic to create something tangible with my hands. Unexpected encounters. Here's where it gets wild. About 3 months ago, I ran into Jake at a farmer's market. I hadn't seen him in person since all of this started, and let me tell you, it was awkward. He looked different, healthier, more put together, but the weight of our shared history hung in the air. He approached me cautiously, and we had a brief, civil conversation. He thanked me for being honest in court and said he hoped I was doing well. That was it, no dramatics, no lingering. It was weirdly normal. Right now, Jake and Lucy are completely out of each other's lives. The restraining order is gone, but neither has any desire to reconnect. Lucy's focusing on her art and healing, while Jake is building a quiet, stable life. And me? I'm finally learning to let go of the chaos that once defined our dynamic. Do I wish things had turned out differently? Sometimes. I wish Lucy and I could have found a way to repair our friendship, but I also know that some relationships are meant to end. I wish Jake had never hurt Lucy, but I also recognize that people are capable of change. Life is messy, and this entire ordeal has taught me that sometimes, the best you can do is navigate the mess with as much honesty and grace as possible. Now on to second story. Refused to babysit my stepdaughter's child after her boyfriend publicly accused me of neglect, and now she's in a bind for childcare. I did a work program with the local clerk of court's office when I was in high school. They hired me when I graduated, and I had my 30 service years before I turned 50. With 30 service years you can get your full pension at any age. I worked until my first grandchild was born, then I retired to be grandma daycare. I have 5 grands, 8 male from my stepson, 7 male from my son, 5 female and 18-month male from my daughter. I babysat all of them with no issues or complaints. I still keep the 18-month-old Monday to Friday and the older ones summer and school holidays. My stepdaughter and her boyfriend has been nonstop drama since before the baby was born. When she was 10 weeks pregnant they presented a 3-page list of rules for when I was babysitting. They said if I didn't sign it, they wouldn't allow me to babysit. I said that I understood their need to do what was best for their baby and I assured them that there would be no hurt feelings on my end when they made other childcare arrangements. Some of the rules were almost understandable but most were downright ridiculous, and none of it was going to work for me. I don't remember them all but some examples are, I can't take the baby anywhere without their permission, I can't watch more than one additional child while babysitting, I can't cook, I had to provide the full name, job and address of any potential visitors ahead of time for their approval of the person being around their child. They have to know anytime I have a guest over and know who it is and how long they stay. My 9-year-old cat would have to be kept out of rooms where the baby would be, even when the baby wasn't there. I couldn't get another pet without their agreement. When she was 7 months along they came back with revised rules in an attempt to compromise. I again let them know that their expectations were not going to fit with my life and they should just find other childcare. 2 days after my stepdaughter went back to work, she called and asked if I could keep Cullen the next day. I agreed but made it clear that I was going to provide safe, appropriate care according to my judgment and I wasn't going to deal with complaints or whatever that I was violating their rules because I wanted it very clear that I was not agreeing to any of that. My stepdaughter was okay on the days she picked Cullen up and dropped him off. I felt like she was interrogating me every time she picked him up but it was tolerable but her boyfriend was downright rude. I got to the point where I actually spent Sunday dreading the start of the week because of dealing with both of them but especially his behavior. At minimum he'd pick up Cullen, make a big deal of partially undress him, make at least one snide comment about my cat or if I had any grandchild over besides the 18-month-old or if I had cooked or whatever. Then he'd say, I guess we don't have any choice but to put up with this for now. Or I guess you are happy that you won. This went on for 4 months. I spoke to my stepdaughter several times about it and told her that obviously they are very unhappy with how I cared for Cullen and that they should really work on finding something else and that in the meantime he needed to be less vocal about it. It would get better for a day or two and then he'd start again. It all came to a head as Thanksgiving was approaching. He was very verbal about the fact that he didn't want me to keep all my grandchildren over the break. I made it very clear that there would be a couple of days that I had all of them and that they needed to make other arrangements if they had a problem. They didn't make other arrangements and when he picked Cullen up on the first day that I had all my grands, he was very rude and although nothing happened, everyone was happy, clean, fed, had a great day he said, to Cullen, that he was sorry that they had no choice except to leave him in an unsafe situation to be neglected. I called my stepdaughter that night, relayed to her what was said and told her that she had 2 weeks to make other arrangements and that she needed to drop off and pick up Cullen during those 2 weeks and if her boyfriend came to drop him off I would refuse to keep him and if he picked him up I would not keep him again. So things were better only dealing with her. At some point she asked me if I would keep him until January because they found someone but he couldn't start until then. I agreed. She picked Cullen up and dropped him off, everything was fine. New Year's Day several people sent me a screenshot of a post her boyfriend made on social media about how thankful he was that they were finally able to leave Cullen without worrying about his safety or him being neglected. He didn't outright name me or accuse me of anything specific but anyone who knows us knows I was keeping him and the post implied plenty. I was just happy that it was over. Friday she called me and said that their new childcare provider had told her that Cullen wasn't a good fit and that she couldn't bring him back Monday. She asked if I would start keeping him again. I told her that I was sorry for their situation but I really don't feel comfortable keeping him. My husband and stepson both think I should watch Cullen under the agreement that Amanda drop him off and pick him up because they think her boyfriend is the big problem and that I should just do it for Cullen's sake. My stepson also commented that I'd probably be more willing to let it go if it had been a conflict with my daughter's husband. My pension is about $4,000 per month plus continuation of my health insurance. That's about 40% of our take-home income if that matters. Ada for refusing to start watching Cullen again? Update 1. First let me just address the common suggestion that Amanda's boyfriend is purposely sabotaging their childcare to trap her at home. They make roughly the same amount of money and definitely can't afford to lose half their income. I seriously doubt he wants her to stay home. Second, I would never tell my stepson to find someone else to watch his child because of a simple difference of opinion. My grandson and I have a very close bond. He's the oldest and it would break my heart and his if he didn't come spend his holidays and summers with me. Plus he's a huge help with the little ones when I have them all and things get hectic. I would never be so petty as to make him, and all my other grandchildren, suffer because of an adult disagreement, so I sort of asked around about why they were dropped by their new sitter so quickly. Apparently they weren't. Amanda picked Cullen up and dropped him off both days he went and everything was lovely. He did cry quite a bit, but they expected that to get better as he adjusted to not being held as much. My husband and stepson talked to Amanda and she said that they realized that they can't afford daycare. They already made the easy changes, packing a lunch, giving up fancy coffee, etc., and his dad and her mom are both giving them about $100 per month towards childcare and they can barely afford it, but they didn't realize that you have to send everything the baby needs. I buy diapers, wipes, formula, bottles, extra clothes etc. They just hand me the baby. They didn't realize that daycare didn't cover all that. Also, imagine her boyfriend's surprise when he found out what the staffing rates are in this very expensive daycare. One adult cares for 5 infants. I guess he thought that someone would provide one-on-one care, diapers, wipes and formula for $350 per week. My stepson relayed their almost apology. They felt overwhelmed by an infant and couldn't imagine that someone else could manage that plus other things. Cullen is going back to daycare tomorrow. Cullen's dad is selling his dirt bike and Amanda is selling some designer clothes, handbags and shoes to cover the cost. It'll get easier for them in 6 months when he transfers to the 1-year-old class, which is a little cheaper.